while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always
Everybody keeps asking, like, what's the update with the YJ? Where's the YJ? What are things you've done? Well, here it is. And you're going to be incredibly underwhelmed with what I've done to it since I made the last video. It's like the carbon fiber dashboard and all that is like a luxury thing. Like right now, I'd be really happy if I could get it to stop leaking gear oil onto my garage floor. Get it so that it functions correctly. There's a bunch of other things that I've done to it just to make it better. Like I replaced all the body mounts, which was horrible because there's a picture that I'll show where I think when I got it, I was like, I want to go off-roading with this because it's going to be awesome, and it's a YJ and it's got leaf springs and it doesn't have lockers and it kind of sucks. And it fell through a little bit of a small creek, like it was frozen. It was in November and I fell through it, and then the whole passenger side got stuck in the water for 3 hours while I waited for somebody to come rescue me, and then the tub got full of water and that made all the body mounts on that side all rusty, so I had to heat them up like with a MAP gas torch to the point where like the sheet metal on the tub started to glow, and I melted the rug in a bunch of places, which is not ideal. It's a good excuse to change the rug because now it's got burn holes in it everywhere. But I mainly wanted to change the body mounts because the old ones were all rubber and they were collapsed, and it looked like the body was sitting kind of tilted to the driver's side. What I could calculate by measuring it was 1.5 inches lower on the driver's side, which is not ideal. And every time, it was just a thing, like I was like walking up to it, I'm like, it looks like it's sitting funny, I don't like it, it must sit even. So I changed the body mounts and it made no difference, it still sits the same way. Some of the bolts broke, and it's just, I don't know, I like getting out all of those old fasteners because you could see like they were exposed to oxygen, like they got rusty and they're gonna break off. And like some of them just using the impact gun to take them off, the head snapped off of them. On the rear driver's side one, it broke. I heated it up as much as possible and it still broke off using the impact gun. So I had to cut the body open, pull the flap up, pull the old piece out and throw it away, and then weld a nut onto some metal, and then put that metal in there, and then weld that metal in, and then close the flap, and then weld the flap back shut. It was a big pain in the ass, but that's like the correct way to go about doing that if you fuck it up in that manner, where you have to do that. This is the thing to keep in mind, like when you're doing a job like that, it's not gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna undo the bolts, it's gonna take a couple hours, and it's gonna go completely wrong and take 4 or 5 days longer than you expected it to do, because like, I also changed the transmission mount to be polyurethane, and I changed the motor mounts to be polyurethane. And when I read the instructions for the polyurethane motor mounts, it said may increase engine vibration slightly. It increased engine vibration catastrophically. This is only happening because of the shutter speed of the camera at which I recorded it, because I was trying to record it normally and I couldn't see it. Like I'll show you stuff shot with a GoPro and then stuff shot with my camera, but essentially you can see all of the body panels going with the vibration of the engine, because I realized afterwards, like I bought new rubber motor mounts and I cut them down and matched them to the engine, and what the problem was, it wasn't the polyurethane, it's because on the driver's side the mount is narrower, so I cut down the mount and the bushings, but the metal carrier for the bushing was still touching the motor mounts, like it was pressed in there. I had to hammer it in, and that was translating the vibration through. So if I would have actually got the correct ones, it wouldn't have been this bad. But like, I put them in and I started it up, and like every single piece of plastic started like, that's not an exaggeration. Like, it sounded that way. And I drove it around the block, and it was just unbearable. I'm like, I'll fucking sell this thing because I can't drive it if it sounds this way. So I just got different motor mounts and fixed it, and it works perfectly now.
From far away they came to us with knowledge. They changed our world.
The only other things that I really want to do to it is to change the rear diff to be a limited slip. It's got a stock 411 gear in it, so I'd put a 410 limited slip of some kind in it, and then in the front axle put a 410 aux locker, or manually actuated kind of locker, so that when I do go out and play with it, I can have that versatility. And like sway bar disconnects, I need to install longer brake lines because right now I have the stock brake lines, and with the 2.5 inch lift, it's tugging on them. Like, I can't really go play with it that much because if I flex it out, it's gonna break one of the brake lines off. So it's one of those things that's been holding me back from going and actually like toying around with it. It's so low on power at the moment. Like, I drove it through the Rocky Mountains, and it was constantly like, I was making jokes like fucking third gear the whole day. Like, it doesn't have enough power to go up hills at any sort of speed. Like, it can maintain highway speed but not up hills. Like, you gotta be running it at like 3,500 RPM up a hill for like 25 minutes, and it's gonna explode. It doesn't overheat or anything, it just doesn't feel like it's good. So a thought that I've had is to replace the engine in it with the 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder from an SRT4 Neon, because if I'm not mistaken, the normally aspirated block of that engine was offered in a TJ as the 4-cylinder option from 2004 to 2006. So it's not a totally blasphemous engine to put in something like that, and then I can have power to pass and do things like that. The only hesitance I would have in that is like the way that I have it set up now, holy shit, does it ever sound good. It's not fast and it's not powerful, but it just gives you that smile. Like, you drive it, you're like, and like if you downshift, it like pops and grangs. It pops and bangs and gurgles, and it feels like a sports car with boots on, because it's lifted up and you can't go around corners really fast, but it's still fun. What do you think, Gary?
It's pretty good.
You think it's pretty good?
Smile to... It's just adorable.
Get in my limo, Gary! I forgot I didn't eat anything this morning.
Do you want some carrot cake?
No, I'll get something to eat when we're done.
I got...
Which just seemed like that's the goal with this car for me, is to just make it as good as possible so people don't get in it and go, ugh, yuck, I don't like it, it's old.